Hello, I want to welcome everyone to another episode on Send the Light podcast. I'm Diana here, and I'm here with Tabea, and we will be interviewing Marianne today. And maybe you could introduce yourself. And yeah, we're going to be talking about your mission work in Mexico, right? And you can kind of just give us a brief introduction about that.
Yeah, hi, I'm glad to be here. My name is Marianne, and I am 36 years old. I have been in Mexico now for 3 years, and I'm going into the fourth one in August again. Maybe I should start with how the Lord found me. I was only 5 years old as I guess I grew up in a Christian home, and I always knew about Jesus, and my parents taught me how to pray, and then my brother got converted. And then I heard about it, and I'm like, if he's going to heaven and I am not, I just knew I do not belong to Jesus. And then after a family devotion in the evening, then I talked to my dad about it, and we talked, and then we prayed together. I didn't understand a lot, I would say, because I was very little. But later on through the years, I definitely knew I was a sinner. Like I did not necessarily right away confess things, and it was just like building up basically, and I knew the way I was living and the way things were going, I would not be ready to meet Jesus, and I was scared of it. I was scared Jesus would come and I would just stay home or stay on earth. And then there was one night where I was really scared, and then knew the Lord is calling me, and I went downstairs, went to my parents, and then my dad again talked to me, and there I was able to confess my sins in prayer and accept Jesus as my Savior. And since then, I want to say I can follow the Lord. I got, I think I was about 15 years old, and I really had the desire to get baptized as well. I was seeing other people do it, and somehow I had such a peace and joy in my heart, and I watched them, and I'm like, that's what I want to do too. I want to follow Christ in all ways, and I want to do that too. And then as I turned 16, I got the opportunity and was able to follow him.
Nice. Did you get baptized in Germany or in Canada?
Yeah, that was still Germany.
And then how old were you when you moved to Canada?
I guess I was 21.
Okay,
yeah.
21. Nice. And then I guess you had your youth years here, a couple of years, right?
Yeah, I was basically half the time I was in Germany in youth, and then a couple of years here yet.
Nice. And then you also you were a youth teacher here, right, too, as well?
Yeah.
In Canada. And then you had a longing to go to Mexico, right? So how did you know it was God's will for you to do mission work in Mexico?
So that's actually a very interesting story, to me anyways. I had, I guess my life was a little bit maybe different than a lot of girls I knew. A lot of girls, they went into youth, and then eventually they got married and had their families, and some of my friends as well. For me, things went a different way, and I became older but was still single, and I guess then I started to ask myself more and more, Lord, what is actually your plan for my life? And then I oftentimes prayed about it more, sometimes more, sometimes not as much, I guess. But each time, or I'm not exactly sure if it was each time, but like many times when I earnestly asked the Lord, what is actually your plan, then trials came. Like there was some deep valleys in life. And then I actually eventually got scared asking the Lord, because I'm like, am I ready to face all these trials again? And then it was, I guess, 3 years ago, then I had the same question popped up in my heart. Ask the Lord where his spot is for you. And first I was scared, but then I did ask him. And then during devotions, I read a verse where it says, in 7 days I will let you know what you need to do. And to me, that was a very strange verse. I did not even know it existed in the Bible. And then somehow it was in a devotional book, and usually I just read my Bible, not the devotional book, but this time I did. And then I'm like, no, you cannot take that. Like, this is just too, I don't know, too clear or too, I don't know.
Coincidental.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I just somehow inside of me, I was asking myself, well, you asked the Lord for an answer and he has given you something, take it. And then I'm like, okay, Lord, I wanna believe you, and if this is from you, like I was basically waiting for what's coming now. And then it was, I think, the day after, I kept on praying, and then I talked to my sister, and then she had said, well, why aren't you going to Mexico? And I'm like, what should I do in Mexico? So 2 years ago then, or 2 years before that time, I was in church, and I always said, I'm not going to mission work. Whatever God's plan is for me, like I'm curious and like I want to follow, but mission work is nothing for me. Somehow I never had the calling, and I saw that many people did it, but like I wanted to go for mission only if I really had the calling. And so instead of kind of considering mission work, I was basically running away from it. And then this time in church, then there was from Isaiah, they read the verse where it says, here am I, send me. And that time I went on my knees, I remember that, and then I said, and even if you want mission work from me, I will do that too.
Wow.
And then it was basically, I think that was the time where I really said, anything is fine. And it was shortly after, then they had asked for someone to go to Mexico.
In our church?
In our church, yes. And then I was not 100% ready yet. There was something I wanted to pay off before I would leave, basically. And in the meantime, another teacher had said she would go. And then I'm like, okay, that's fine. Then she's going. But that was, I think, the first time that I actually considered going to Mexico. But through these 2 years, she was there, and I'm glad she was. And now she was back, and I did not know that she would stay here now. So this was kind of beside. So now, as my sister was asking me if I would want to go to Mexico, I'm like, why should I go there? I thought like it would be like, I didn't think I was needed. And then I had kept on praying and talked to that teacher, and learned that she actually wanted to stay, or had to stay here. She couldn't go back, so that spot was open, and I knew this was my spot. It's actually interesting also that the people in Mexico, like this teacher had talked to them, and somehow my name was mentioned down the road, and they were wondering if I would come there, and I had no idea about it, and I had not even had the wish in my heart anymore or anything, but somehow for them it seemed not to be a big surprise that I would be coming. They just, as if they were expecting it.
All aligned, hey?
Yeah.
It's so amazing to hear that, you opened your heart to the opportunity to go. And it's often, I find, when we often we push things away, but when we actually open our heart to opportunities, then God will lead us, then God calls us into different things that we could not see ourselves doing, but it's us that have to like open our heart for God to do the work.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I actually also was wondering then, like once I had my yes, my parents gave their blessing, the church gave their blessing, and one thing which I found very interesting during that time, I kept on reading my Bible, and I was actually in the Christmas story, like Luke 2 and that area, and I thought, well, I'm actually wanting to, like, I need to make a decision now. I need to know the Lord's answer. What does the Christmas story want to tell me? Basically, I was a little bit, like somehow what's written there. And then what I read was that the shepherds had to hurry and go and find Jesus. And Mary said, like, I'm your servant. And like, even through the Christmas story, I was basically, pushed into that decision. And I knew for sure this is my way to go.
That's amazing. Like, often I find it's like the Lord leads us ways that we could never even expect him. And it's always like the way he leads us, it's just amazing. What did your day-to-day kind of look like in Mexico?
So I'm teaching there, right, in a very small school. We have a little bit over 20 kids, so it's quite small, but we have many grades. So for me, there are different things I'm teaching. So there's a lot of prep to do. So that's basically what I do in the afternoon, preparing for another class. For some things we have curriculums, but for some things it's completely open, so I need to find my own. So that's a lot of work, and it's just amazing that the Lord is also there. Like how many times I asked him, like, what should I do, like, just for ideas, even like little things maybe, and you're like, I need an idea, what should I do? And then he gives it, and it's so amazing. You don't need to know that 5 years before that, right? You know, you need to know it then, and then he gives those things. Yeah, and then there's also on Tuesday evenings we do music lessons for people. We have it basically open for people to come, and that's where we have also connections into the Old Colony. And some people bring their kids or come themselves in that time, and that's kind of like our way of connecting to them as well.
So when you say Old Colony, those are the Mexican Mennonites in Mexico, right?
That's right.
And so you don't live in the colony, you live outside of the colony?
No, we live in
the colony?
In the colony.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that's how you connect to the people, by doing music lessons?
That's right.
Often? Okay,
Yeah.
Nice.
So do you teach any specific instruments, or what does your music lesson kind of look like?
Yeah, I teach mandolin and piano.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, and then there is also, like, on weekends, then we basically, we go and visit people. We have some connections into the colony, but also people who are going to church who have, like, our church exists of people who have repented. There's some of them, they're still living in the colony, but they are having Jesus in their hearts. So, and that's basically a very small church, but we help there too. I'm doing Sunday school and other things, wherever help is needed, I guess.
You say a small church, is that, do you know how many people around are in that church?
Yeah, the families which come there usually are, 4 families.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
which
very
are
small
coming.
church,
And then it's open for everybody.
Exactly.
So sometimes we have more, sometimes less.
Do you often have visitors from the colony coming to church?
No, not as much. But we do programs during the week, not during the week, during the year. We do a Christmas program with school, or we do this music seminar in springtime sometime. And then we do it not in church, but we have a hall beside, which is attached to the church, and that's where they can come into.
Nice.
Like, into church, it's it's not easy for them to step into, I guess.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, like, it's inside the colony, and I know before we were talking about a bit, like, how the colonies are kind of gated. So, like, you're inside the colony, and, like, the colony, like, the leaders or whatever, they're okay with you having, like, a Christian-based church there?
It seems that way, just they leave us in peace, yes.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that they necessarily would greet us when we would meet people. Like, it depends, like, every family is different. Some, seem to be okay with us living there. But I don't have to fear or anything like that.
You also mentioned before that the colonies are very big, right? Like, it's a lot of land that, like, one colony owns, right?
Yes.
So you don't necessarily always meet these people on a day-to-day basis?
No.
Not everybody, no?
No, but
Okay.
we have a little store there, like one store, one gas station, and that's basically, so when we go there, then we meet them.
Nice. Marianne, do you mind sharing a story from your time in Mexico when you really felt God's presence or protection or his guidance in your life?
So there is one thing which really, I guess, astonishes me this year, was that we had 3 times that I know car troubles. Like, we have a little car, it's a nice one, but it's not necessarily fancy. And we're just 2 ladies, so we have no idea about things which need to be checked at or whatever necessarily.
We're no car mechanics.
Just small little things, I guess. So the one time we were going, we had asked if our tires would be okay, and they said, oh yeah, you have good tires. A year or a couple weeks before that, or months before that, our car had an accident. There was someone else driving it, and I guess something was not aligned anymore, but we had no idea about it, and we were actually traveling far. Like, we were going 15 hours one way once, yeah, and nothing happened. Like this car brought us there and back, or I should say God brought us there and back. And then a couple of weeks after that, all of a sudden we had a flat tire, and then someone came to check at it, and then he said, actually those tires are like done, you know, something is not aligned, and like it was actually somehow scary driving that far with something like that. So that was one thing, but like it broke down as we had help. So for me that was a godly thing. Then we were also in the city and we had to take a U-turn, and all of a sudden we couldn't steer anymore. And then but we got off the road, and then friends were very close by. So again, this was close to a friend's house, close to these friends live in that city. And then, so they were able to come and check it out. And then they're like, there's the wrong hose on it or something. Like it was in a shop, but I guess they didn't do a proper job. So now something was not right. So, but again, it broke down as we had help. And then just like recently, same thing happened. We went to that city, and then something was wrong with the tire, and we knew, but no idea what to do kind of thing. So we kept on going. And then the next morning at our friend's house, we had a flat tire again. So again, there were people to help us, and no cost, they paid it for us. So it was just amazing for us to, it could have happened in the mountains. It could have happened somewhere in a, lonely area or whatever. But no, it happens.
We should probably mention where in Mexico you live, right? Because Mexico, I know like they have lots of like vacation resorts and stuff, but you live in Moctezuma, you said, right?
That's right.
And when you drive, when you say 15 hours, like is it through lots of like mountains, hilly areas, or like what does it look like in Mexico where you live?
And so this 15 hours thing, that was actually, we were traveling home for Christmas. So then we went into the States. So that's why it was that far. But oftentimes, like we live in Chihuahua, in the state of Chihuahua, 2 hours away from the city, and that is like basically in the desert. Like it's not a vacation area. It's like dry. It's it's the desert. It's a land where you farm and these things. So and then another city would be Cuauhtemoc, and that is 3 hours from us. So when we go there, we drive through mountains. And that is an area like where you drive through maybe 45 minutes or so, and there is no
cellular connection.
Yeah, that's right.
So that makes sense, and why you say that it's such a blessing that when your car breaks down or when you have car troubles, that there's people around, right? Because when you drive so far and there's nobody around and it's only two girls, you could often be stuck in the middle of the road, right? In Mexico, and you don't want that to happen, really. So that is a blessing, and God's guidance definitely how he leads that.
There's also another thing I would like to share. That was my first time going to Mexico. It's just an amazing story to me, and where I had no idea about Spanish at all. So, and then people say, well, they know English there. So I was flying in by myself, and I had to switch terminals. At night, we had a delay, so we came there very late. And then somehow in my mind, I had this, like, you're not taking a taxi. It's scary there. It's Mexico City. You are not doing that. Like, I was just by myself, alone. And I tried to speak to people, but they did not seem to know English, or very, very limited. And then I was standing there, I remember, and people are just like on their phones or sleeping or whatever, because it was nighttime. And I'm like, well, I have like a little bit of time, but I need to get to the other terminal. So, and all of a sudden I see there 2 girls standing, and they are not on their phone, not sleeping, not anything, but they had an open look. Basically, they are looking at me, and as if, like friends almost. And I'm like,
ready to help.
And I felt like I can trust them. And then I went there, and they could speak fluently English. They came along, they translated. In the end, I had to take the taxi. But somehow I got such a peace, which was beyond understanding, I would say. I thought, whatever, they can bring me wherever. I was just so peaceful. I knew the Lord had me in his hands, and everything went well.
Yeah, that's always a comfort to know, like, the Lord is with us and has us in his hands, and he carries us through everything. What were some, like, challenges that you encountered, and how did you overcome them?
I would think there are many struggles, right, in life. Sometimes comes from the outward, but I find the inward struggles seem to be the bigger ones oftentimes. And how I overcame them, like sometimes, like I'm very blessed with a friend there in Mexico. So we are two ladies living together. I did not know her from prior, like we met each other in Mexico. But whenever it's like, how should I put it? If I have big struggles, she's always there. Like we pray for each other. We even have taken a day where we fast together for a problem, and prayer is just a solution. So very often we have seen how the Lord answers our prayers, and I'm just so happy and so blessed that I do not need to be alone. Like there is like a friend, a sister, and it's just amazing.
It's always such a comfort when you have somebody there, right? That you can tell and share everything. You pray together, overcome your struggles together.
It's a gift from the Lord.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, that wraps up our podcast today. Thank you, Marianne, for coming and sharing your stories. We love listening to them. Something you mentioned before the podcast today that I found interesting, you said before you came back to Canada, now when your school year was done, you were thinking and praying, you were saying that, or do you mind sharing that story just a little bit? What
sure.
you said before?
Yeah, usually, like sometimes you need a certain verse for a certain decision, or that's how you feel like anyways. And this time I was wanting to have a verse from the Lord for the time at home. I came back in May and want to go back to Mexico in August again. So, and then I had my daily devotions, and then I read how the Lord was saying to a person who he had delivered from demons, go home and share what the Lord has done to you, in my own words now.
I have the verse here. I can read it right away. Okay. It's from Luke 8:39, or I'll read 38 and 39. It says, "Now the man from whom the demons had departed begged him that he might be with him. But Jesus sent him away, saying, 'Return to your own house and tell what great things God has done for you.' And he went his way and proclaimed throughout the whole city what great things Jesus had done for him."
Yeah, thank you. So, then I came home, and even before I came home, I was asked already, can you come and share something? And this time was just amazing. Like I'm here only like a very short while since, like so far. But I had many opportunities to share, and I would just want to say it's actually true. Like the Lord, if you know He's leading you, there is joy. It may not be easy. It may be sometimes thorns that like it may look like the desert we're actually living in. But if He is there, that's all you need. And it's just, amazing that we can talk about what He's doing in our lives, right?
Yeah. God gives us the opportunities to share. So thank you again for being here. Diana, do you have anything to say yet?
No, just thank you for coming, taking your time and sharing your story. And it's been definitely a blessing hearing how the Lord has been leading you. And it's also always comforting to know, and listen to other people's story, how the Lord is leading them. And I don't know, there's lots I can learn for myself as well and take into my daily life.
Thank you.
Yeah.